Welcome to On the Record, your local resource for all things government. This week's episode is dedicated to the ballot box, and we'll begin by recapping some of the races decided there last week. We'll start with tax questions. Joplin voters were asked to decide the fate of Proposition Police and Fire. The measure passed handily, meaning the city will impose a 0.5% sales tax to fund police and fire pensions for new hires and migrate them to the Missouri Local Government Employees Retirement System. The tax replaces a general sales tax approved by voters in 2019. Joplin voters also okayed a $40 million no tax increase bond for the Joplin School District. Eagle Bond 2026 will be paid by the district's existing 76 cents per $100 assessed valuation property tax levy and will be used on improvements to Joplin Elementary Schools, a new education and activity center for the high school, and work at the Jung campus. Joplin voters also made yes a clean sweep at the polls, approving an amendment to the city charter, changing emergency ordinances to expedited. In the Central Jasper County Fire Protection District, voters approved an additional tax of no more than 30 cents per $100 of assessed valuation to fund operations. Heading into Carterville, where Proposition A was being voted on, voters passed an additional 1% city sales tax for 10 years with money to be used for general revenue. Dunaweg voters were also asked to impose a sales tax, and they said yes to 0.25% to pay for parks and recreation, community entertainment, and stormwater control. We'll stay in Jasper County. Voters approved exempting eligible homeowners from tax increases on their primary residence. Barton County voters also saying yes to that same question. Meanwhile, Barton County voters said no to Proposition 1. It would have allowed the Barton County Ambulance District to impose a use tax at the same rate as the existing sales tax, to be raised and lowered alongside the sales tax. That measure failed by just 25 votes, and voters in western Barton County approved a school bond question in Liberal. Proposition Kids allows the district to borrow $3.5 million for a variety of improvements to facilities, including new roofs and HVAC, secure entrances, and ADA accessible restrooms. The district expects no increase to taxes, currently 60 cents per $100 assessed valuation of real and personal property. In Vernon County, just to the north of Barton County, voters gave a resounding no to the creation of a new hospital district. Had it passed, the district would have been able to impose a no more than $1 per $100 assessed valuation property tax in order to fund the hospital. Meanwhile, in Newton County, voters were asked the same property tax exemption question as Barton and Jasper County voters. They also said yes. Now to a pair of questions that crossed over into both Jasper and Newton counties. We'll start in Diamond, where the school board asked voters if a 4-day school week should be adopted for the next 10 years. Those voters said yes. In Sarcoxie, voters greenlit increasing the levy ceiling to just over $4.07 per $100 assessed valuation. The money will pay operations and staff expenses and fund district projects. Let's head to McDonald County now, and the first of several tax questions. Voters in Anderson approved extending the city's current property tax of 30 to 35 cents per $100 assessed valuation for yet another 5 years. The revenue will be used for general municipal funding, including a summer ball program for children. Now to the first of two tax questions put before Goodman voters. They approved question 1, imposing a 3% sales tax on all recreational marijuana sold inside city limits. That money will be used to fund public safety and law enforcement. And the second tax question out of Goodman, the police funding tax. Voters also saying yes, a new 0.5% city sales tax to help fund the Goodman Police Department. Pineville voters answered a public safety tax question of their own, saying yes to a 0.5% tax to help fund operations at the Pineville Police Department. Voters also said yes to a 0.5% sales tax to fund operations in the Pineville Fire Protection District. That vote also means the property tax levy inside the district will be reduced annually by 50% of the revenue collected by this tax in the year before. We've taken a look at some of the issues on the ballot. Now let's look at the people running for office. We'll start with the Joplin City Council race. 3 general council seats were up for grabs. Voters sent incumbent Josh Detar along with Mary Price and Brian Cowles to fill them. A total of 6 candidates ran for general seats this year. The winners each will serve a 4-year term. Now to Carthage and the first of 3 city council races in Ward 1. Robin Harrison defeated incumbent Derek Peterson. In the 4th ward, Beth Kane defeated Jabin Parnell. And in the 5th ward, Susan Fierro-Reddy defeated incumbent Jana Schramm. There were several other races for council and school board seats. You can find a full list from across our area on our website. With the April elections now safely behind us, we turn our attention to August primaries. We'll start in Missouri, where there's only one statewide race, and that is for state auditor. On the Republican ticket, incumbent Scott Fitzpatrick from Shell Knob will face Gerald Wistron from Oak Grove. On the Democratic side of the ticket, Quentin Wilson from St. Louis will face Gregory Upchurch, who's from St. Charles. One Libertarian has also filed for that seat. That's Dustin Koffel from Lake St. Louis. Let's turn to a pair of federal seats, beginning with Missouri U.S. House District 4. This is one of those impacted by redistricting done by the Missouri legislature last year. Incumbent Republican Mark Alford from Raymore will face two challengers. Those are Heather Shelton from Belton and Scott Vera from Kansas City. The Democratic ticket is a bit more crowded with 7 candidates. They are Jordan Herrera from Kansas City, Wayne Russell from Columbia, Hartzell Gray from Lee's Summit, G. Rick from Morrisville, Janet Cass from Neunga, Ashley Rogers from Kansas City, and Randy Miller from Lone Jack. There's also one Libertarian candidate, that is Thomas Holbrook from Warrensburg. In the 7th District, which is Southwest Missouri, incumbent Eric Burleson from Springfield will face two challengers on the Republican ticket, John Casey from Republic and Grayson Hunt from Willard. The Democratic ballot has one candidate, Missy Hesketh from Forsyth, and the Libertarian ticket also one candidate, Kevin Craig from Powersight. In Missouri, state senators and state representatives are term limited and only allowed to serve 8 years in each respective chamber. In the House, candidates are elected to two-year terms, while in the Senate, they serve 4-year terms. With that in mind, there will be several new faces in Jefferson City come January of next year. Let's start with state Senate races. In the 20th Senate District, which covers Barton and Dade counties in our area, incumbent Curtis Trent of Republic will face Lori Rook of Springfield on the Republican ticket. The Democratic Party has one candidate for that seat. That's Sean Falconer of Springfield. In the 28th District, which includes Vernon and Cedar counties, incumbent Sandy Crawford is term limited, meaning there will be a new senator in January. Vying for that seat on the Republican ticket, Sam Alexander of Bolivar, Brad Pullitt of Sedalia, and Chuck Lentz, also of Bolivar. There's also one Democratic candidate, that's Mike McAfee of Nevada. In the 32nd District, covering Jasper and Newton counties, incumbent Jill Carter of Granby will face Ellen Nichols of Joplin on the Republican ticket. On the Democratic ticket, one candidate for the 32nd District, that's Ima Curl of Joplin. In the Missouri House, 5 of the 9 Southwest Missouri districts will see new representation in Jefferson City, again due to term limits. We'll start in the 125th District, which takes in Vernon and Cedar counties. Voters won't have much to decide. Incumbent Dane Deal of Butler is the lone Republican, Linda Jones of Nevada, the lone Democrat. In the 127th District, covering Barton and Dade counties and parts of Jasper County, we will see a new state representative. Incumbent Ann Kelly, term limited. Vying for the Republican nomination, Ryan Hagdorn of Stockton and Brendan Kelly of Lamar. Marvin Manring of Stockton is the lone Democrat on the August ballot. The 157th House District will be decided in November. Incumbent Mitch Boggs of La Russell is the lone Republican. Bradley Bowes of Pierce City, the lone Democrat. That same story will play out in the 158th House District, where incumbent Scott Cupps of Shell Knob is the lone Republican and Chris Foster of Purdy, the lone Democrat. The next representative from Missouri's 159th, which covers parts of Newton and McDonald counties, will be decided in the August primary. Only 2 Republicans, no Democrats filed for the race. To replace Dirk Deaton, who is term limited, they are Joel Mace of Goodman and Mark Bartley of Pineville. In the 160th District, a seat left vacant when Ben Banker resigned in 2025 to take a job at the federal level. There are 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat vying to represent central Newton County. On the Republican side, Chris Wright of Joplin will face Jonathan Russell of Neosho and Cheryl Perkins, also of Neosho. On the Democratic side, Angela Thomas of Neosho is the sole candidate for the 160th District. The 161st District will be another that will see new representation in Jefferson City, with incumbent Lane Roberts term limited. On the Republican ticket, Thomas Ross and Louise Secker, both of Joplin, are campaigning for the nomination. On the Democratic ballot, Aaron Metzger is the lone candidate. In the 162nd District, where incumbent Bob Bromley, again term limited, 2 candidates have filed for the Republican ticket. They are Walter Hayes of Carroll Junction and Roger Koch of Webb City. There is no Democratic candidate, meaning the winner of this race will be the next state representative for the 162nd district. In the 163rd district, incumbent Kathy Jo Loy of Carthage is the lone Republican, while Brenna Barksdale, also of Carthage, the lone Democrat. The August primary in Kansas will be quite a bit more crowded, with several offices to be filled. One U.S. Senate seat, all 4 U.S. representatives, the governor and lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, state treasurer, and commissioner of insurance will all be on the statewide ballot this August, closer to home. Each of the state's 125 state representatives who serve 2-year terms will be up for re-election, and the Kansas Board of Education District 9 seat, which covers all of Southeast Kansas, will also be on the ballot. Still a little early in the process to go through the list of candidates, though. In Kansas, they have until noon Monday, June 1st, to file for that election. Let's head to the Sooner State, where again we find a crowded ballot. We'll run through most of those, starting with statewide races. Several people have filed to run for the U.S. Senate seat currently held by Alan Armstrong, who was appointed to replace Mark Wayne Mullen in March. We'll start with the Republican ticket, where Kevin Hern, Sean Buckner, Brian Regain, Nick Hankins, and Gary England will be part of a 5-way race. An equal number of Democrats have filed for that same Senate seat, with Troy Green, Jim Priest, Joe Cassidy, Nikia Thomas, and Irvin Yen, who are all vying for the nomination. Meanwhile, 2 independents have filed for the seat. They are Curtis Stennett and Ron Meinhardt. Sevier White is the lone Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate. And in U.S. House District 2, incumbent Josh Breachin will face Will Webb in the Republican primary. 2 Democrats have also filed for that seat. They are Eric Treway and Brandon Wade. And the lone independent to file, Ronnie Hopkins, will advance to November's general election. The race for the governor's office features a crowded field, with incumbent Kevin Stitt term limited. We'll start with the Republican ticket and a list of 9 candidates. Those are Charles McCall, Mike Mazzei, Lisa Hayes, Gentner Drummond, Kenneth Sturgill, that is, Jennifer Domenico, Chip Keating, Caleb Taylor, and Jake Merrick. The Democratic ticket features 3 candidates: Cindy Munson, Aria, no last name, and Connie Johnson. There are also 3 independent candidates for governor: Jerry Griffin, Robert Brooks, and Orlando Bush. The Republican ticket for lieutenant governor also crowded. Incumbent Pinnell is term limited. The 6 declared Republican candidates are Darrell Weaver, Victor Flores, T.W. Shannon, Justin Humphrey, Brian Hill, and David Ostro. Meanwhile, only 1 Democrat has filed for lieutenant governor. That is Kelly Forbes. Now to a simpler race, only 1 candidate has filed for state auditor and inspector. That's Republican Melissa Capps. 2 Republicans will face off in August for the Attorney General's office. They're John Eccles and Jeff Starling. 1 Democrat also filed for the AG's office. That's Nick Coffey. The state treasurer's race features 2 Republicans, incumbent Todd Russ, Cindy Byrd, and 1 Libertarian, Kiefer Perry. State Superintendent of Public Instruction also has a deep field of Republican candidates, with 7 people vying for the current office. Current Superintendent Lyndall Fields, who was appointed to fill the remainder of the unexpired term of former Superintendent Ryan Walters following the latter's resignation last year, is not among them. Tony Hassenbeck, John Cox, Robert Franklin, Adam Pugh, Deborah Hurley, James Taylor, and William Crozier round out the Republican ticket. On the Democratic ticket, there are 2 challengers, Craig McVeigh and Janet Marshall. On the local level, only 1 state legislature race features more than 1 candidate. That's the race for District 6 state representative, which takes in portions of Craig, Mays, Nowata, and Rogers counties. Incumbent Rusty Cornwell faces 2 Republican challengers. That's Eli Richard and Amber Dawn Ellis. There are no Democrat or independent candidates for that race. Again, full results from last week's election can be found on our website, and we will, of course, bring you the latest as the midterm races heat up. Until next time, I'm Jeremiah Cook. Thank you for going on the record with us.